Today, we will delve into the world of the Renaissance to uncover the secrets behind one of the most renowned Christmas-themed paintings, the Adoration of the Magi, by the great Leonardo da Vinci. This masterpiece, like many of the artist's other works, remained unfinished. Nevertheless, it holds a significant place in art history, marking a true breakthrough in the painting of its time. Why is the Adoration of the Magi so important? Leonardo da Vinci employed unique artistic techniques that allow the viewer to feel like part of the scene, as if they are among the Magi themselves. We will explore how Leonardo created a sense of presence in his works. His innovative approach to light, shadow, and perspective gives the viewer the ability to literally enter the painting and experience its atmosphere. This effect is achieved through the use of the sfumato technique, which softens contours and creates the illusion of depth and volume. However, the Adoration of the Magi is not just about technical prowess. It also reflects Leonardo's philosophical ideas and scientific interests. He was not only an artist, but also a scientist, engineer, and thinker whose ideas extended beyond the realm of art. We will examine how these aspects of his personality are reflected in the painting and have made it so significant. Moreover, we will discuss the dramatic fate of Leonardo himself and his project. Why did he leave the Adoration of the Magi unfinished? Immerse yourself in history, art, and science with us on this fascinating journey. Leonardo da Vinci's time in Florence was crucial for his development as an artist, and it was during this period that he worked on the Adoration of the Magi. The city, governed by the Medici dynasty under Lorenzo the Magnificent, became the place where Leonardo began to hone his artistic skills. However, his relationship with Lorenzo was not ideal, ultimately influencing his decision to leave Florence for Milan. But let's take it step by step. Leonardo was born on April 15, 1452, in the village of Anciano, nestled in the hills. To this day, tourists are shown the house where the great master is believed to have been born. Anciano is located near the town of Vinci, which lent him his surname. The record of Leonardo's birth has been preserved thanks to his grandfather, who was likely very pleased to welcome his first grandson. Leonardo was born out of wedlock. His mother, a simple peasant, and his father, Piero da Vinci, a notary and respected man, were the parents of the future genius. Piero amassed considerable wealth, living to the age of 77 and marrying 4 times. In total, Piero had 12 children, with the last born when he was 75. Leonardo was his firstborn. His father officially acknowledged him, and although Leonardo spent the first 3 years with his mother, he was later taken by his father, which was a challenging experience for him. Leonardo's baptism took place in Florence, at the Basilica of Santa Croce. This site is famous for being the burial place of illustrious residents of the city, such as Machiavelli and Galileo, and it was also intended to be Dante's resting place. It was here that Leonardo was baptized in an open ceremony, indicating that his father not only recognized him, but also wanted to present him to society. Until the age of 13, Leonardo da Vinci was raised in his father's house in Vinci, where Piero hoped his son would continue the family tradition in the legal field. However, even at that young age, Leonardo's independent nature and unique talents began to emerge. Despite his natural gifts, traditional academic education proved unsuitable and uninteresting to him. University education was never completed. At 13, Leonardo firmly rejected the prospect of becoming a lawyer, expressing to his father his desire to dedicate himself to art. Piero supported his son's choice and sent him to study under Andrea del Verrocchio, one of the most renowned artists of the time. From an early age, Leonardo showed a deep interest in the world around him and nature, creating numerous sketches. However, his first known work, a landscape drawing, is dated only to 1473. Art historians consider this work to be the first true landscape in art history. The drawing depicts the Arno River Valley, through which Leonardo often walked, admiring its beauty. The river flows through Florence, and the artist managed to convey it with striking realism, complementing the image with mountains and deep perspective. The work was completed on the day of the Feast of Our Lady of the Snows, associated with the history of the construction of the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore. Leonardo's Florentine period of life and work is marked by his growing interest in the life and image of the Blessed Virgin Mary. During this time, he created several significant religious-themed works, including the Annunciation and Madonna of the Carnation. These works not only confirm his mastery, but also reflect his deep immersion in the spiritual and philosophical aspects of human life, which would become a distinctive feature of his art in the future. According to the accounts of Vasari, a famous biographer of the Renaissance, Florence first noticed the emergence of a new genius when Leonardo da Vinci participated in creating the painting The Baptism of Christ under the guidance of his mentor, Andrea del Verrocchio. The central part of the canvas is dedicated to the scene of the baptism, and on the left are two angels who, like observers, are present at this event. Verrocchio painted one of the angels himself, and although his work was done at a decent level, it remained quite simple. The master entrusted the depiction of the other angel to his student, Leonardo. At that time, the process of learning in the workshop was long and painstaking. Beginners started with the simplest tasks: keeping order, stoking the furnace, observing the work of the master and his students, and grinding paints. Only after a significant period were they entrusted with more responsible tasks. If the master trusted a student to execute a detail in their work, it was a sign of high trust and recognition of their talent. Verrocchio gave Leonardo the opportunity to prove himself in the Baptism of Christ, and as Vasari notes, the result exceeded all expectations. The master and all of Florence were amazed. It became clear that a new artist had emerged with a unique vision. The angel painted by Leonardo was noticeably different from his teacher's work. This image already showed the direction that Leonardo would later develop, depicting celestial and human forms. The angel was endowed with delicate facial features, an elegant halo, and beautifully rendered hair. Attention to detail and composition was evident, creating the impression that the space around the angel was transformed. Vasari wrote that upon seeing Leonardo's work, Verrocchio declared that he would never pick up a brush again. However, the years spent in Verrocchio's workshop contributed to Leonardo's development not only as an artist. He also studied engineering and mechanics. At the time, Florence was home to outstanding scientists, and Leonardo chose from whom he wanted to gain knowledge. He believed that the best teacher for him was life experience, and it was this belief that guided him in his further professional and personal development. However, this approach had its drawbacks. In the era of Lorenzo the Magnificent, the Platonic Academy flourished in Florence, and Neoplatonism and ancient ideas were in vogue. People considered it good manners to engage in conversations in the refined language of Virgil. Leonardo da Vinci, who had not received a classical education, learned Latin much later, and his knowledge of the language left much to be desired. This limited his access to high society circles, where social conversations were conducted in Latin. Unlike him, his contemporaries, such as Botticelli, were popular in these circles, partly due to their ability to speak freely in the language of the ancient Romans, following the fashion of their time. Despite this, Leonardo was a true representative of the Renaissance era. For example, the Platonic idea that our world is a reflection of heavenly harmony found vivid expression in his works. For Leonardo, man was the center of the universe, but his value lay not in himself, but in his combination with the Spirit. In one of his treatises, he gave free rein to this thought, asserting that without the Spirit of God, there is no art, and if thought does not go hand in hand with action, then there is no artist. This unique combination of divine providence with human activity has its origins in the ideas of Platonists, which inspired Renaissance artists and filled Florence at that time. These philosophical ideas and their practical application in Leonardo's life and work reflected the spirit of an age when art, science, and philosophy were inextricably linked. In his work, Leonardo strove to merge art and science, trying to understand and depict the harmony of the world. He continued to seek answers to questions concerning human nature and the divine plan, making him not only an artist, but also a thinker of his time. In 1472, Leonardo da Vinci established his own workshop, gaining recognition and becoming a member of the Guild of Artists, named after the Apostle Luke. This allowed him to gain independence, although until 1476, he continued to work under the direction of Andrea del Verrocchio. During this period, Leonardo began to receive commissions for independent works, among which the works dedicated to the Virgin Mary stand out. One of these works is the famous Madonna of the Carnation, where the child reaches out to the flowers, and the crimson color of the carnation symbolizes the forthcoming crucifixion. His painting, The Annunciation, is also notable as it became the first work where the action unfolds not indoors or even at a temple, but against the backdrop of nature. In the painting, Mary is depicted sitting by a house and engaged in needlework, while the archangel Gabriel rushes towards her, and the viewer can catch his movement, although he simultaneously freezes in reverent prayer. The background of the painting presents a typical Italian landscape, paused at the moment the archangel utters the words, "Hail, full of grace, the Lord is with thee." These works by Leonardo demonstrate his unique approach to depicting religious subjects, combining deep symbolism with innovative compositional solutions. The artist skillfully used light and shadow to emphasize the emotional depth of his paintings, creating an atmosphere that continues to captivate viewers. Leonardo sought not only to convey biblical stories, but also to immerse the viewer in the world of the characters' feelings and experiences, making his works timeless and relevant. In the painting, the Virgin Mary is depicted as a young maiden dressed in traditional colors, red and blue. It is important to note that her image embodies not only heavenly beauty, but also earthly. Leonardo seems to convey the idea that the Virgin is the most perfect creation, embodying the purity and humility that humanity has been able to achieve. The painting Adoration of the Magi belongs to the same Florentine period of Leonardo's work and is dated to 1481, although this date may be inaccurate. The commission came from the monastery of San Donato in Scopeto, located near Florence, between 1472 and 1477. The work was intended to decorate the altar. At this time, Leonardo had just joined the Guild of St. Luke and received the title of Master, but his fame was already resounding. However, rumors began to spread that, despite his genius, he did not always complete what he started. The Adoration of the Magi became a vivid example of this. Leonardo set to work and created a large-scale cartoon depicting a complex composition with numerous characters. The painting was intended to become a true masterpiece, reflecting not only a religious theme, but also the deep philosophical ideas characteristic of Leonardo's work. However, in 1482, Leonardo decided to leave Florence and moved to Milan to work at the court of Ludovico Sforza. This decision left the Adoration of the Magi unfinished. By the time he departed, Leonardo had only managed to prepare the underpainting, leaving viewers a glimpse into his creative process. After Leonardo's departure, the San Donato monastery needed the project completed. In 1496, they approached another renowned artist, Filippino Lippi, the son of the famous Filippo Lippi. Filippino was known for his skill and talent, and he was commissioned to create a new Adoration of the Magi for the monastery. Filippino Lippi completed the work, creating his version of the painting, which today is housed in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. His work features a more traditional approach and attention to detail, making it unique while complementing the history of Leonardo's original work. Leonardo da Vinci's unfinished Adoration of the Magi remains one of the most intriguing works of art. The composition of the painting is striking in its complexity and dynamism, where each character interacts with others, creating a sense of movement and depth. In the central part of the painting are the Virgin Mary and the infant Jesus, around whom all other figures are concentrated. These people, representing different layers of society, are united by a common purpose: to approach the infant and pay their respects. Leonardo was the first among his contemporaries to emphasize the diversity of faces and characters in the background figures. Each is distinguished not only by age and facial expression, but also by the manner in which they bow before the Virgin. Animals, such as horses, hold a special place in the composition, and, according to art historians, share human emotions. However, one might view this differently. Leonardo was extraordinarily educated for his time, well-versed in the Holy Scriptures and the works of Plato, and had an understanding of theology. In the Adoration of the Magi, a key idea is embedded. With the birth of Christ, humanity was given the chance to regain the lost paradise, the state of Eden, and direct communication with God, which were lost due to the fall. Thus, the animals in the painting do not merely reflect human feelings. As the Apostle Paul wrote, all creation, including animals, awaits final transformation. Together with humanity, they were expelled from Eden, though they bore no guilt for the fall. But being created for humanity, they shared its fate. Therefore, every living creature, along with humanity, awaits the restoration of universal harmony and rejoices in the birth of the Savior. In the Adoration of the Magi, this idea is expressed, underscoring the deep connection between all creations and their yearning for renewal and harmony. Leonardo da Vinci's painting is rich with symbolism, characteristic of the Renaissance era. Trees, particularly the palm and oak, hold special significance in the composition, serving as axes around which the action unfolds. Leonardo demonstrates his mastery of symbolism, linking these elements to cultural and spiritual contexts. The palm symbolizes Jerusalem, referring to the moment when the Savior was greeted in the city with palm branches as a sign of recognition of his royal dignity. This plant is also associated with pilgrims, who traditionally brought palm branches from the Holy Land, even before the destruction of Jerusalem. Thus, the palm is a symbol of the holy city and its spiritual significance. The oak, on the other hand, is associated with Celtic culture, where it was venerated as a symbol of eternity. When Christian missionaries took note of this symbol, they did not exclude it from Christian tradition, but rather imbued it with new meaning. The oak has become a symbol of eternity in the context of the one God, the creator of the world. The tradition of rulers making decisions on personal matters under an oak tree dates back to the time of King Arthur, as it was considered a suitable place for fair judgment. Many European monarchs later revived this tradition, emphasizing its significance. In the painting, two cultural spaces are united. The palm represents Jerusalem, and the oak symbolizes Rome and Italy. This symbolic connection reflects a desire for harmony and spiritual unity, a crucial idea during the Renaissance. Through these symbols, Leonardo conveys a profound connection between different cultures and their contributions to humanity's shared heritage. At the center of the composition is the Virgin Mary with the infant Jesus, toward whom all elements and figures are directed. The Magi bring gifts to the child, and here Leonardo da Vinci uses his favored technique, often seen in his depictions of the Madonna and Child. The Savior is presented as a playing child. For example, in another painting with the Madonna and the Carnation, the infant reaches for the flower. In the Adoration of the Magi, Christ, with natural childlike curiosity, reaches for the gifts. The Virgin, with love and maternal warmth, gazes at her child, yet simultaneously understands she holds the Savior of the world, who accepts these gifts and responds to human aspirations. Through these details, Leonardo emphasizes Christ's dual nature, divine and human, reflected in every element of the painting. In the background, a battle scene unfolds. Despite the ambiguity, it can be assumed as a symbolic illustration of the struggle to be overcome with Christ's birth. The battle signifies the evil, disunity, and hostility existing in the world. The Nativity of Christ marks the beginning of a new era where these negative forces are to be defeated. Thus, the painting creates a powerful narrative of hope and the triumph of good over evil, initiated with the Savior's birth. On the painting's left side, Leonardo depicts a ruined temple, likely related to ancient architecture given its majestic forms. This image may symbolize the collapse of the old ancient world with the arrival of the new word. However, looking deeper, this detail reflects a theological concept about Christ's coming and its significance for humanity. In this context, the ruined temple could signify not an end, but the beginning of new construction. A temple rising from the nativity of the Virgin and continuing with Christ's nativity. This temple symbolizes humanity's offering to God, expressing the synergy, the cooperation between man and God. People begin the construction, and God responds with his incarnation. Thus, this symbolic image conveys the idea that one day divine and human wills will unite, transforming the world, a process initiated with the nativity of Christ. The composition of Leonardo da Vinci's The Adoration of the Magi is unique in Italian painting, especially due to the background characters and spatial organization. What makes it special? Leonardo leaves the space directly in front of the Virgin free, which is no coincidence. He later actively experiments with space, but even in this work, he takes significant steps in this direction. According to Leonardo's intent, the painting's plot, although confined within the canvas, should extend beyond its borders. A similar effect can be observed in his famous fresco, The Last Supper. How does Leonardo achieve this effect? He employs a revolutionary approach, placing numerous figures behind the Virgin, creating a sense of overcrowding. The central group exudes remarkable kindness, creating an impression of absolute peace and confidence residing at the heart of the composition. Around them unfolds a whirlwind of people, each appearing strange and mysterious. Noise, chaos, and fear overwhelm those who surround the central scene, leaving only at the feet of the Madonna a space intended for us. This painting symbolizes a world full of horror and confusion into which the Lord comes. But it can also be interpreted as the world's reaction, frightened by his arrival, for he can expose every evil thought and reveal all deceitful schemes, leaving no wicked deed unnoticed. Everything will be subject to just retribution. However, in front of the Virgin Mary there remains an open space that seems to be specifically designated for the viewer. This space invites anyone looking at the painting to become part of the scene. This technique makes the painting very personal, directed at each person, creating the impression that the space in front of the Madonna is left precisely for the viewer. This makes the work not only visually rich, but also emotionally close to everyone who looks at it. Leonardo da Vinci was fully aware that the painting would become something more than just an image. It would acquire the status of an icon only when it included a space for the prayerful. Just as the Magi gathered around the Madonna, each of us has the unique opportunity to draw near to the Mother of God, to become part of this great event. This idea carries deep significance. The painting does not merely depict a biblical scene, but invites everyone to a personal spiritual experience, to participation in the holy moment. By creating this space, Leonardo extends a bridge between the viewer and the holy image, making everyone part of an eternal story. Such a creative solution highlights not only the artist's skill, but also his desire to make art personal and meaningful for everyone who views it. Well, that's all for now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss new stories from the world of art. Feel free to ask your questions in the comments and leave suggestions for topics you're interested in. By the way, on the channel, you can find episodes about other works by Leonardo da Vinci, as he is a figure that clearly cannot be confined to one video. So, until next time, dear art lovers, your art pastor.